If in Serbia, if you rebuild a hotel that was bombed by NATO, and this will be the last destroyed building rebuilt, do you mean that Serbians would forget what the West had done to them? And, there's no repentance. It will not be forgotten. Please tell everyone that these are problems that we'll deal with and cope with.
Could I just simply comment as far as the economic problems? I sort of wish that they had destroyed some refineries because we would be in these traffic jams in Moscow because the cars wouldn't be all over the road. So it's just, the economy in Russia, it's an incredible place. And this desperation by the West to try to pretend that there are problems here when you have such, an effective spokesperson like Maria.
Oh no, it is not because there's me, but this is because of Russian people. Our people are like that, and I'm not speaking on my own behalf. And when I say something, it is not only in my capacity at the Foreign Ministry, but I talk to different people, not only to my friends and acquaintances. My Russian colleagues know that I spend 2 or 3, I talk to students and workers 2 or 3 times a week. I am invited by them. It is not only some sort of a speech or a briefing or a presentation. It is usually a Q&A, and it is usually and always a lively discussion. I am telling you the things that people told me. I am trying to broadcast what our people think and how they live, and that's it. And our people still love other peoples, other nations, and they are ready to be friends and to cooperate, no matter how much pain the Western machine has inflicted on us. And during the Biden time in the United States, and how much pain NATO has inflicted on us. Our people, Russian people, have not rejected or turned down friendship or cooperation, but they know what they are ready to fight till the end. They want to preserve our true values without conquering the whole world, but to have our truth asserted and defended, so that we are not called humanoids, that we are genderless creatures, that we are slaves. And, we don't need all that. And we know what it may lead to when you do not respond to dehumanization.
Can I finally ask a question?
Maybe you have a question.
No, seriously. I think we have to take this to the next level. If this is the last question, I think we have to really go hardcore. Yeah. In an auspicious vein, to quote our Chinese friends, we talked about a lot of horrors around the world and horrors that were forced on Russia, as you know very well. You deal with it all the time. And especially this metaphysical void in Europe now, where they forgot the Renaissance, they forgot the Enlightenment, and they are plunging themselves in a suicide pit because of their leadership. But I want to talk about the auspicious possible future. And Russia and China are leading this future. Russia and China.
Just one small
of course.
intervention. Do you know who has inspired European leaders? You have talked about that they have forgotten common sense, and there is existential void. Do you know who their leaders are? I think it is the American liberal democracy, without any doubt. It is sponsoring them. It made them this way, and it led them. And please do not release the responsibility from those citizens of the United States that have been imposing that on Western Europe. I can give you proof. The United States did not impose sanctions on Russia, and they went to Europe and Brussels, and they began forcing Europeans to impose sanctions in 2014. Who was it? It was Biden. When he was the VP, there are his quotes. These are not deepfakes or fakes. He was proud that he made European leaders to adopt a consolidated decision against
You're
Russia,
absolutely right.
knowing that there would be a retaliation, a response. And unfortunately, I'm sorry, but I have to say that the guilt and the problem of Western Europe is that it has lost its sovereignty. But I'm not sure that the victims of violence are worse than rapists.
No, it's a compound, Ms. Zakharova. The orders come from the empire, but you implement the orders much easier if you have vassal elites who lost their sovereignty, as you just said. Absolutely correct. But it's all about the collective, fragmented, dissolving West and the what we call the Atlanticist elites. But let's try the auspicious part, right? BRICS came of age last year. The SCO came of age this year. BRICS came of age in Kazan, thanks to the large part of the extraordinary amount of work that Russia did last year. I spent 6 months in Russia last year, to a large extent to follow the preparations for Kazan. And I could see how much all of you worked to make it an enormous success. Just like the Chinese in Tianjin this year, same thing. And there was the SCO, another SCO summit yesterday here, right? So these are the two top vectors of the future. Two multilateral organizations, Global South, Eurasia, Eurasia, Global South. It's all interlocked. So it's not really a question, but I am appealing not only to your vast diplomatic knowledge, because you've been to all these meetings, of course, but your gut instinct as well. Do you think that on the BRICS table and on the SCO table, all these major actors and partners, do they understand the extent of the SMO, and when Russia fulfills the targets, how this is going to turn the whole planet upside down? And the new protagonists are going to be them at the BRICS table and at the SCO table. Do you feel this consensus little by little being formed, a better understanding of Russia's background, reasons why to proceed with the SMO this way, and of course, the way to the inevitable victory? These people are smart. They know that Russia already won the war. It's a matter of when the war will finish. How do you compare exactly your professional trajectory looking at the BRICS and the SCO from the inside and your instincts? What are they telling?
I'm afraid that this is going to be the shortest response to someone who has been waiting for my response for such a long time. As long as Washington is going to boss around and make orders to BRICS and Shanghai Organization member states, telling them what they have to buy and what they do not have to buy, we should not be thinking about any philosophical concepts, because everything everything has been done for us. Russia provides opportunities for equal cooperation, and they get an alternative of being bossed around. And this world order based on rules is something that is a world order based on shouts, cries, violence, blackmailings and threats, based on endless violence and nipping people's will in the bud. And this is the philosophy of the future. Everyone chooses himself the kind of world he wants to live in. We want to live in peace, and we propose the format of communication that is being fostered inside BRICS and the Shanghai Organization, when all member states are equal, not only by law, but in their moral standards and their morality and culture-wise. When they have equal opportunities, of course, they will never be the same. We are all different. Humans are different, but there is a notion of equality before the law, of being equal, and that no one has the right to humiliate other people. And this is the world that we are proposing, and we are showing that it is possible. It is not a utopia. It will be a utopia to claim that all people will be the same, and we have to abandon our desires and national interests. This is a utopia. This is not what we are suggesting. We are proposing equality. We are proposing a world of opportunities. We are proposing a dialogue. We are proposing a preservation of international law, a dialogue, and multiple voices. You know, a chorus, when it is a choir, I have never, perhaps artificial intelligence will give us that a chance, such a chance, but we've never had a chorus or a choir with the same voices. We hear different voices in a choir. This is a fantastic effect of singing in chorus, and this is why we are saying that the future is with that chorus. When we'll sing in chorus, when there will be solo areas, and there will be a big team of participants, and how beautiful it will be. It will be challenging, it will be uneasy, but it will give a real positive and constructive result. Instead of one loudspeaker who will tell everyone, like in Orwell's book, who should go left, right, who should eat, who should sit, who should sit and keep silent. The Western world is trying to prove what is true for us. They are crying that you are not allowed to buy Russian crude, you are not allowed to buy Russian gas, you are not allowed to conduct trade with Russia. Everyone understands that this is a stance that will be taken not only with respect to Russia. We have the largest territory. We are a major country based on many indicators, and the West has this animal feeling that if they bring the strongest down, then the rest would have no opportunity to resist, you know. And I think that our resistance on the one hand, and our resistance by force, and on the other hand, our constructive proposals to cooperate based on normality rather than new normality, all that creates an effect, which means that the global majority is not selecting between the two evils, but the global majority begins to understand, based on actual examples, that you can make a conscious choice, and you can choose peace, cooperation, and interaction. The word friendship does not have anything bad. It is not an obsolete word. It is not a word from the previous year collection, but these are the words of the future, you know?
Thank you very much.
It seems to me that it seems to me that Danny had his second question. He has only asked one question.
Sure, Danny, do you want to go ahead? Do you have another question?
Oh, well, yes. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to ask another question. Right now, the mainstream media is saying in the United States that Russia is invading NATO airspace with drones, seeking expansion in Europe, and committing acts of sabotage against NATO countries like Poland. Perhaps you can give an American audience an idea of the actual role that Russia plays in the world and what interests guide it.
Да, да. Конечно.
Yes, of course. I suggest that your audience should think about one thing. Sabotage. Is sabotage good or bad? If it is good, then it should not be any reason to worry. If it is bad, then they should ask their governments and their regimes why they've been sponsoring sabotage against our country. Once they decide whether it is good or bad, we'll be able to continue the discussion. We believe that it is bad. We believe that extremist activities, terrorist acts are inadmissible. And having gained experience in North Caucasus, we believe that international terrorism is absolute evil, and everyone has to fight against it. We believe it, and we demonstrate it by example. I believe that your audience is quite young. Your audience may be diverse, but your audience are likely to be 30, 35, or under 40, and they don't know what the Russian Northern Caucasus international terrorism problem was. I can remind you that there was a time when the UK and a number of European states were sponsoring insurgents like Dudaev, Basayev. They were terrorists like Zakharov. Zakharov still lives in the United Kingdom, and he is the best guest for the British establishment. And they were committing terrorist acts and sabotage acts. Do you know what kind of terrorist acts they committed? For example, you take a large apartment house which is 15 stories high or 10 stories high, and terrorists, insurgents who were sponsored by the West, they brought explosives, hexagen, and they blew up those houses, and dozens and hundreds of people died. And there was another act of sabotage, and when in Budyonnovsk, it is a Russian city in the same region in the Caucasus, terrorists sponsored by the West, similar to how they sponsor Zelensky. There was a hospital, a maternity hospital was taken hostage. What is a childbirth? It is a miracle. It is a complicated process that requires everything: supply of oxygen, supply of water, electricity and light and heating for the baby to be born healthy. Those terrorists took that maternity hospital hostage. Those terrorists had West-made weapons bought and provided bought from the West and provided by the West, and they began dictating their will to the government. Nobody in the West, whether in Downstreet, in Brussels or Washington, has made a statement that act was actually inadmissible. Everyone was demanding that Russia made concessions to terrorists. This was the time when the West had to decide whether sabotage or terrorist acts were good or bad. You just need to decide once and for good. If your countries and the citizens of your countries choose leadership who sign off treaties on counter-terrorism, then they have to comply. By the way, the words international terrorism are no longer used in the international information space. No one is discussing international terrorism. In the year of 2010, there was no other topic. Everyone was discussing international terrorism. We kept hearing about international terrorists. But now this topic is no longer on the radar screen. I don't know what those international United Nations officials are doing. I have not heard this word mentioned by US observers, but this topic is still relevant. Why is it blocked by Western mass media? Because they feel uncomfortable given that Zelensky is an international terrorist who is targeting civilian infrastructure. The definition of terrorism, though there is not a universally accepted definition, but all definitions of international terrorism say that these are violent acts against civilians and to intimidate them. And we have just, we were discussing those strikes against the Russian energy system. It is civilian infrastructure. How about Nord Streams? It was a civilian infrastructure that was destroyed by Ukrainians. Did anyone say anything? I have not heard from anything from Brussels, Washington, Ottawa, Washington, or any other states. Did anyone say that it was bad to blow up a pipeline, a gas pipeline? How many times were power grids mined by people in the name and on behalf of the Kiev regime? How many times were terrorist strikes against the Crimea Bridge? Was it someone, was there anyone who tried to rebuke Zelensky? I will not shake your hand if you keep doing it. Did someone in Berlin, Norway, Sweden, I don't know, Finland, did anyone summon diplomats when it was declared by the Western countries that they suspect Ukrainians of that sabotage act? And I'd like to remind you how Russian diplomats were sent back home, though they were not accused of any particular crime. You need to define the standard, or you have to admit that there are no standards. Why should you ask these questions when no one can give an answer to the question, what is your attitude to acts of sabotage? First of all, you need to give a definition. Our definition is that international terrorism is absolute evil. Sabotage is evil. You need to also define it on your part. And by the way, it is a message to the civil society. The civil society has to demand a response to this question. What are we sponsoring? What is our money spent on? If you are targeting oil pumps, if you are targeting gas stations, then we should think about it. We need to decide whether it's good or bad. If this money is spent to strike the Crimean bridge, you need to decide whether it's good or bad. If civilian infrastructure is targeted, you need to decide whether it's good or bad. But this is the essence of the post-truth world. I have to apologize that we're going to finish our discussion like this on this note, but in 1945 nuclear weapons were used for the first time, and it was the United States government against militarist Japan. There were atomic bombs used against two cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and there was no reason to do that because the Second World War was about to come to an end, and it was clear that it was absolutely obvious, but it was some kind of retribution for Pearl Harbor and for all the sufferings of American people inflicted by Japanese militarists. And it was a horrific act, a terrible act. We are ashamed. You know, as we sometimes say, they did it, but we are ashamed. What is happening? All that is erased from the minds of Americans and people in the world. First of all, they started erasing the idea that it was a retribution for Pearl Harbor. Then they erased the fact that it was a decision made by the U.S. government. The U.S. government has never apologized. They did not even say we are sorry. They did not express any compassion. What do we see? Events held in Japan. At those events, Japanese government said that those nuclear bombs were falling from the skies. It looks like aliens were actually bombing them, or they were just fell from the sky. And you know what double standards lead to. And the most horrible, terrible, and barbaric thing is that at those ceremonies, Japanese government officials draw parallels with referring to Russia. They fail to mention that it was an act committed by the United States government, but due to some unknown fact, they are saying that Russia should not threaten the world with nuclear weapons. Russia has never used nuclear weapons and is a good faith party to all international documents. This has a direct relation to your question. There should be no double standards. You should not erase the memory of history, and you have to define basic concepts. Once we define that a table is a table, that a chair is a chair, a microphone is a microphone, a TV set is a TV set, internet is internet, then we can reach an agreement. But if we manipulate standards, and now we are manipulating concepts, concepts are being manipulated, not by us. I understand what it will lead to. When Hitler was called the father of European democracy, almost the father of European democracy, it led to the Second World War, to genocide, to Holocaust, etc. I also have a question. May I go?
Well, I was just going to say, yesterday's international terrorist is today's honored guest at the White House.
As long as our colleagues are here with us, we'll say goodbye to Maria. It is an important statement. Let me say, in this country, I briefly mentioned it today, when we were fighting against international terrorism in the North Caucasus, on the one hand, we are fighters against terrorism, and at the same time we said that those who voluntarily reject any using arms, and if they acknowledged the laws of our state, if they comply with human norms and everything that was a part of our policy, we could have a dialogue with them. And this is what happened. And we are not ashamed of that. Ahmad Kadyrov is someone who was fighting on the other side, but he was strong enough to lead a large number of people to stop that bloodshed that was imposed on us, and to actually release our country from international terrorism. And his son is continuing this noble cause. And we sincerely believe that Ahmad Kadyrov is a hero of our country, though we know what we began with. We know him as a hero. We esteem him as a hero, and will treat him this way all the time. And in this connection, I'd like to clarify it. It is crucial, and I believe that it was a great achievement achievement of our President Vladimir Putin and of our people who managed to find a way out from this situation. And it was a very noble way out, most noble. And I always gave this example as an effective recipe for those who face terrorist challenges domestically. Those terrorists may have foreign roots or international roots or domestic roots. This was an example that Russia demonstrated to the whole world. And this is something that has to be part of the world history book. And as thank you very much, Maria, for these colleagues. Please stay online because we'll have another guest who is General Abti Aludinov, who leads the Akhmat Battalion, and it was the result of what Maria Zakharova has talked about. It was not only a peaceful settlement, but it was he is defending our motherland. Maria, thank you very much. Many thanks for your great